Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to tonight's bonus. We are that much closer to the live stream. Before we jump into tonight's bonus, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. The merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters of Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost you a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the exciting and informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to tonight's bonus, shall we? Guys, there is something that the powers that be want us to remain dumb to. They'd like us to just remain completely ignorant to everything that's going on. And with the latest in what has been going on in our country, we can start to see that, yeah, there is a 1%, almost cult-like, I'd say. Most cults are organizations filled with greed, money, power. Well, this is something that those of the 1% and those who work under the 1% want to keep a secret from us. This document describes nothing less than a global government takeover of every nation across our planet. The goals of this document are nothing more than a code word for a corporate government fascist agenda that will imprison humanity in a devastating cycle of poverty, while enriching the world's most powerful globalist corporations like Monsanto and DuPont in the interests of helping wake up humanity. Let's translate the 17 points of Agenda 2030 so that everyone everywhere can understand what this document is really calling for. To perform this translation, you have to understand how globalists disguise their monopolistic agendas in feel-good language. Here is a point-by-point translation. Notice carefully that nowhere does this document state achieving human freedom is one of the goals, nor does it explain how these goals are to be achieved. As you will see here, every single point in the United Nations agenda is to be achieved through centralized government control, totalitarian mandates, and resemble communism. Translation of the UN's 2030 Agenda Blueprint for Globalist Government Controlled by Corporate Interests. Goal number 1, end poverty in all its forms everywhere. Translation, put everyone on government welfare, food stamps, housing subsidies, handouts that make them obedient slaves to the global government. Never allow people upward mobility to help themselves. Instead, teach mass victimization and obedience to a government that provides monthly allowance money for basic essentials like food and medicine. Label it as ending poverty. We see that everywhere we look nowadays. I believe AOC was just talking about how capitalism is such a terrible thing. She is part of this. She's just a pawn, though. Just a pawn. Nothing more than a speck on the one percenters' shoe, but she will do their bidding until they get what they need from her, and she will be disposed of. Goal 2, end hunger, achieve food security and improved nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Translation: invade the entire planet with GMOs and Monsanto's patent seeds while increasing the use of deadly herbicides under the false claim of increased output of food crops. Engineer genetically modified plants to boost specific vitamin chemicals while having no idea of long-term consequences of genetic pollution or cross-species genetic experiments carried out openly in a fragile ecosystem. Now, when I read this, I thought about something that I had heard my two uncles discussing probably 10 or 15 years ago in regards to how they used to, when planting, they used to not reuse, but they would sow seeds and then harvest the seeds from that crop. And now, I guess from what I understand, that is no longer allowed in the agricultural fields today. You have to buy a certain type of seed every year. That's a little strange, isn't it? To me, that says they cover up something. Number 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Translation: mandate 100+ vaccines for all children and adults at gunpoint, threatening parents with arrest and imprisonment if they refuse to cooperate. Push heavy medication use on children and teens while rolling out screening programs. Call mass medication prevention programs and claim they improve the health of citizens. Now, I heard this, and I don't know because I've never been to a PTA meeting, but I heard that during these new PTA meetings, if parents now bring up a stink, that the school board is required to let some entity in the government know what parent made a stink and what it was about. Very strange. Goal 4, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Translation: push a false history and a dumbed-down education under Common Core education standards that produce obedient workers rather than independent thinkers. Never let people learn real history, or else they may realize they don't want to repeat it. Number 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Really quick, before we move into 5, my daughters are homeschooled, and as we were going over some of their curriculum, I was baffled at what they don't teach children nowadays. And how they label certain things. Preston and I were just talking about this the other night, and how they're trying to erase history and kind of make their own up as they go. That's why they're destroying monuments. And taking some books. I would not doubt very soon, like Catcher in the Rye and a couple of other books. To Kill a Mockingbird may not be in our schools. I was surprised actually when The Outsiders was still in the curriculum. But they're right. In the translation, Common Core is Common Core. Think about it. That doesn't sound like, education is meant, I think it's meant to be fun. I love learning. But when you label something Common Core, that kind of groups everybody in. So let's say you have someone who is not so well read. Doesn't make him a bad person at all. But then you have a person who is very intelligent, intellectually inclined. Yet you're teaching these two students the same thing at the same time, at the same pace. You're only holding both back because you're not giving either one of them a chance to succeed and progress. Also, another simple along that lines is, I remember when field day and playing Little League was fun, and we played for first place, second place, maybe third. But if we didn't make it that year, we only went out and tried harder. Now everyone gets a trophy. That's strange, right? Let's give everyone a trophy. Let them all feel equal. No, you can't. And this is showing us why. It's a way to control, to dumb us down. Goal 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Translation: criminalize Christianity, marginalize heterosexuality, demonize males, and promote LGBT agenda everywhere. The real goal is never equality, but rather the marginalization and shaming of anyone who expresses any male characteristics whatsoever. The ultimate goal is to feminize society, creating widespread acceptance of a gentle obedience, along with the self-weakened ideas of communal property and sharing everything, because only male energy has the strength to rise up against oppression and fight for human rights. The suppression of male energy is the key to keep population in a state of eternal peace. I don't agree with that, because I know some females that are pretty badass, if you ask me. This is just a broken down version of what this Agenda 2030 really is. I don't believe that male and female, I don't believe that males are stronger than females. Not whatsoever. I have 2 daughters, and I teach them that they are strong, independent people, and capable of anything. I don't think male energy is the key. I think intelligent energy would be the key. Goal 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Translation: allow powerful corporations to seize control of the world's water supplies and charge monopoly prices to build new water delivery infrastructures that assures availability. Goal 7, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Translation: penalize coal, gas, and oil while pushing doomed to fail green energy subsidies to brain-dead startup headed by friends of the White House who all go bankrupt in 5 years or less. The green startups make for impressive speeches and media coverage, but these companies are led by corrupt idiots rather than capable entrepreneurs. They always go broke, and the media hopes you don't remember all the fanfare surrounding their original launch. Well, I agree with that. I myself have nothing against sustainable energy. Eventually someday we'll have a house, and I'd like to put solar panels on my roof, just so I can save energy costs, and but they're just now finding that natural gas is not as pollutive as they used to think. Nuclear is the way to go, they're saying. Electric is by using electric, you're still having all of the chemical byproducts produced by making these things. What goes in these batteries are deadly metals, lithium, mercury, etc. They're deadly. And what happens when you're done with these batteries or whatever? You put them in landfills, and then those deadly metals seep into our groundwater, and cancer becomes a deadly enemy for some that live around that area. Number 8, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. Translation: regulate small businesses out of existence with government-mandated minimum wage and bankrupt entire sectors of economy. Force employers to meet hiring quotas of LGBT workers with mandating wage tiers under the centrally planned work economy dictated by the government. Destroy free market economies and deny permits and licenses to those companies that do not obey government dictates. I don't know why they keep saying LGBT. That's bothersome. I disagree with that LGBT worker mandate thing. I don't understand it. I think, like I said, this is just a broken down version of what these things. There are many different conspiracies about Agenda 2030. This is just one that I chose to share. But during the lockdown, we saw a lot of small businesses collapse. It's kind of interesting that small mom and pop delicatessens and stuff like that had to close. Yet Walmart, Target, Sam's Club could stay open. Doesn't make sense to me. Number 9, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industries, and foster innovation. Translation: put nations into extreme debt with the World Bank, spending debt money to hire corrupt American corporations to build large-scale infrastructure projects that trap developing nations in an endless spiral of debt. See the book Confessions of the Economic Hitman by John Perkins to understand the details of how this scheme has been repeated countless times over the last several decades. Goal 10, reduce inequality within and among countries. Translation: punish the rich, the entrepreneurs, and the innovators. Confiscating nearly all gains by those who choose to work and excel. Redistribute the confiscated wealth to the masses that feed off of productive economy while contributing nothing to it, all while screaming out equality. What is that? That is socialism at its best. Socialism is how they can control us. NWO, baby. We all know this. There's no news to us. We've been made aware of this since, well, I mean, I've been made aware of it since I was younger. Number 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, sustainable. Translation: ban all gun ownerships by private citizens, concentrating guns into the hands of obedient government enforcers who rule over an unarmed, enslaved class of impoverished workers, criminalize living in most rural areas by instilling Hunger Game type style protected areas, which the government will claim are owned by the people, even though no people are allowed to live there. Force all humans into densely packed, tightly controlled cities where they are under 24/7 surveillance and subject to easy manipulation by the government. We all, right there is just there was during the lockdown. So as I was saying, there was a movie during the lockdown called Songbird, and it was very Orwellian, if you ask me. If you haven't seen the movie, watch the movie. It is a very decent movie, well written. I saw it right when it came out, and it was horrifying because, of course, we were in the middle of the pandemic lockdown, and I mean, when there's fires, you're supposed to put water to cool it. You don't put more wood onto that fire and stoke it. Ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Translation: that's number 12, by the way. Begin levying punitive taxes on the consumption of fossil fuels and electricity, forcing people to live under conditions of worsening standards of living that increasingly resemble third world countries. Use social influence campaigns in TV, movies, social media to shame people who use gasoline, water, or electricity, establishing a social construct of the nines and tattlers who rat out their neighbors in exchange for food credit awards. Venezuela. Need I say more? Venezuela. Here's an interesting little fact. Stanley Meyer's water fuel cell. American Stanley Allen Meyer built a buggy that he used water as fuel. It was a water fuel cell. And the car was said to be able to travel from California to New York. In 1998, Stanley Meyer died suddenly at a restaurant with his brother in a meeting with two Belgian investors. Meyer believed that he had been poisoned as he was eating He screams out, "They poisoned me." And of course, there was a cover-up stating that the Franklin County coroner reported Meyer had high blood pressure and died from a cerebral aneurysm. Well, certain poisons can cause cerebral aneurysms or brain aneurysms, or pretty much your brain just fills with blood and you die. I've had 2 friends die of brain aneurysms, and ironically enough, they were both related, now that I think about it. But that fits in with this. The Pentagon was supposed to be interested in this vehicle back in the 70s as well. Very strange. Goal 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Translation, set energy consumption quotas on each human being and start punishing or even criminalizing lifestyle decisions that exceed energy usage limits set by the government. Institute total surveillance of individuals in order to track and calculate their energy consumption. Penalize private vehicle ownership and force the masses into public transit, where TSA grunts and facial recognition cameras can monitor and record the movement of every person in society, like a scene ripped out of the Minority Report. I believe I heard this somewhere. I forget where. I believe it was on some news article or news footage that I was watching, that the United Kingdom is pushing for something like they want to buy private vehicles from citizens and have them use buses and bikes and such, and blaming it on climate control. I'm not going to get into climate control. I have looked into it and read about it, and what I gather, my gather of the information that I believe that this is a cycle. We've always had climate control. It's a cycle that we live in. Are we helping? No, we're not. Nature pollutes more than we do. And nature has to. Otherwise, there'd be no oxygen. The plants need to have carbon in order to produce oxygen. It's a cycle. It's been going on since the dawn of this beautiful planet we live on. Goal 14, conserve and sustainably use ocean, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Translation, ban most ocean fishing, plunging the food supply into an extreme shortage and causing runaway food price inflation that puts even more people into economic depression. Criminalize the operation of private fishing vessels and place all ocean fishing operations under the government control, central planning. Only allow favored corporations to conduct ocean fishing operations, and make this decision based entirely on which corporations give the most campaign contributions to corrupt lawmakers. Goal 15. Protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. Translation, roll out Agenda 21 and force humans off the land and into controlled cities. Criminalize private land ownership, including ranches and agriculture tracts. Tightly control all agriculture through a corporate corrupted government bureaucracy whose policies are determined almost entirely by Monsanto, while being rubber stamped by the USDA. Ban wood stoves, rainwater collection, home gardening in order to criminalize self-reliance, and force total dependence on the government. Goal 16, promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Translation: grant legal immunity to some protected groups, which will be free to engage in any illegal activity, including openly calling out for mass murder of police officers, because they are the new protected class in society. Inclusive institutions mean granting favorable tax structures and government grants for corporations or whatever groups are currently in favor with central planners in the government. Use the IRS and other federal agencies to selectively punish unfavorable groups with punitive audits and regulatory harassment, all while ignoring the criminal activities of favored corporations that are friends of the political elite. You know what? We saw this going on during the riots, and we see it still going on today with, whoever these people label themselves as, Antifa, whatever you want to call them. They're free to loot and harass and create a city within a city. Well, a slum city within a city. But 10, 15 years ago, that would never have been heard of. Ever. National Guard would have went in, put an end to it, walked away. That's how it was done. This crap didn't exist back then. You spray painted a federal building or you did something terrible, National Guard, police, whoever would come in and take care of business and restore order. I don't know. Goal 17. Strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. Translation: enact global trade mandates that override national laws while granting unrestricted imperialist power to companies like Monsanto, Dow Chemical, R.J. Reynolds, Coca-Cola, whoa dog, and Merck. Pass global trade pacts that bypass the national lawmakers and override intellectual properties to make sure the world's most powerful corporations maintain total monopolies over drugs, seeds, chemicals, and technology. Nullify national laws and determine total global obedience to trade agreements authored by powerful corporations and rubber-stamped by the UN. Total enslavement of the planet by 2030. As the UN document says, we commit ourselves to tirelessly for the full implementation of this agenda by 2030. If you read the full document and can read beyond the fluffery and public relation phrases, you'll quickly realize that this UN agenda is going to be forced upon all citizens of the world through the invocation of government coercion. Nowhere does the document state that the rights of an individual will be protected, nor does it even acknowledge the existence of human rights granted to individuals by the Creator. Even the so-called Universal Declaration of Human Rights utterly denies individuals of the right to self-defense, the right to medical choice, and the right to parental control over their own children. The UN is planning nothing less than a global government tyranny that enslaves all of humanity while calling the scheme sustainable development and equality. 1984 has fully arrived, and of course, it's being rolled out underneath the fraudulent label of progress. Now, here's another article of the Agenda 2030, the basic facts of Agenda 2030. The heads of state and government and high representatives met at the United Nations headquarters in New York, September 25th through 27th, 2015, to create new global sustainable development goals. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is a resolution adopted by the UN General Assembly in 2015. The 2030 Agenda is 17 Sustainable Development Goals and 169 targets. According to the UN, all countries and all stakeholders act in collaborative partnership will implement this plan. The goals and targets will stimulate action over the next 15 years in the areas of critical importance for humanity and the planet. In the 2030 Agenda Declaration, the UN declares, on behalf of the peoples we serve, we have adopted a historic decision on a comprehensive, far-reaching, and people-centered set of universal and transformative goals and targets. We commit ourselves to working tirelessly for the full implementation of this agenda by 2030. It is important to note that Agenda 2030 was written in 2015, well before COVID-19. However, the UN has a COVID-19 response for the Sustainable Development Goals and is pushing Agenda 2030 in the wake of the pandemic, which may explain why you are hearing about it more often than now. The United Nations COVID response website says the pandemic is an unprecedented wake-up call, lying bare deep inequalities and exposing precisely the failures that addressed in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, leveraging this moment of crisis when usual policies and social norms have been disrupted. Bold steps can steer the world back on track towards sustainable development goals. This is the time for change, for a profound systematic shift to a more sustainable economy that works for both people and planet. Sustainable development goals are vital for the recovery that leads to greener, more inclusive economies and stronger, more resilient societies. The 5 P's of the Agenda 2030. People, to end poverty and hunger for all planet, to protect the planet from degradation, prosperity, to ensure all human beings can enjoy prosperous and fulfilling lives, and that economic, social, and technology progress occurs in harmony with nature. Peace, to foster peaceful and inclusive societies. Partnership, to strengthen goals solitary. All right, folks, this upload was very informative. I feel like we really should always pay attention to what is going on within our government, who they're working with, what they're doing. The 1%, the NWO. You know, during the Dulce Wars, it was almost like there was 2 factions of government. One that was condoning what was going on, and the other that was just either blind to it or turning a blind eye. Anyway, everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Please keep an eye on your children, your pets, your family, and friends. God bless you all.